know, with the agenda that has public hearing for the rezoning and the text amendment, if they want me to introduce it or anything at that point or later in the... Yeah. They have a- Okay.
Looking good, Larry. He's there.
We're good. See you. Locked on. You're going to be a highly professional.
Yes, sir.
I'll call to order the monthly meeting. Today is Monday, March 22nd, 2021. The time is now 7 p.m. Blythewood Town Council meeting at the Manor. I'll ask our town clerk, Miss Melissa Cowan, to please call the roll. I'm here.
Councilman Eddie Bowman.
Present.
Councilman Larry Griffin. Councilman Donald Brock.
Here.
Councilman Sloan Griffin.
Present.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Cowan, was the notification and posting of the meeting agenda completed in accordance with state law? Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, before you tonight is the agenda. I'll be looking for a motion, and if it please you, to approve tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Thank you. Please join us and join Councilman Donald Brock as he leads us in tonight's Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we bow our heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day, this gorgeous weather you have blessed us with. Songbirds and flowers let us know that spring is here, and with that, the resurrection of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. We come before you today asking for wisdom as this council meets once again to conduct the business of the town of Blythewood. While we may disagree, we can all take solace in the fact that you are in control. Lord, I say a special prayer for our brother and fellow councilman Larry Griffin. I thank you for watching over him during his time of need. Please continue to bless and protect all servicemen and women, domestic and abroad. Please protect our frontline workers, police, fire, EMS, doctors, and nurses as we continue to battle this terrible virus. And a special prayer for our teachers. Never have these fine individuals been more important in the education and rearing of our children. Once again, Lord, bless us and keep us with your everlasting blanket of love and kindness. In your name we all pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you, Councilman Brock. We'll move tonight into council members' remarks. And I'll call on our brother, Councilman Larry Griffin, since he's joined us. I'm glad to see you up and about, sir. You may have your comments. Thank you, and Godspeed on your recovery, sir. Good to see you. We'll move to Councilman Sloan Griffin, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. We do have a pretty lengthy agenda tonight, so I will yield my comments just to say, thank you. Continue to support my brother Larry Griffin there. Good to see you up and moving about, sir, as always. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilman Don Brock.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, everyone, to our March council meeting. We're having such great weather. I'm just blown away at how nice it is outside. Special welcome to our Planning Commission Chairman, Mr. McKendrick, former Mayor Bailey, Richland County Sheriff's Department, Cat Officer Roger Hovis, distinguished members from the Blythewood Historical Society, and our other Blythewood residents. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I will also wish a congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce with their successful Rib Fest. I brought 3 kids in tow, and they all had a blast. We had a great turnout. There was great food. I want to give a special recognition to 8-year-old Macy King. It's a good thing that I found her ribs at the end of my tour versus the beginning, or otherwise I would have gained 5 pounds. They were fantastic. And my 10-year-old and the 2 8-year-olds I had in tow also really enjoyed her ribs. And when you get high praise from kids that are under the age of 10, that says something. The following day, on Sunday, the 14th, I had the opportunity to attend the Women's Historical monthly celebration hosted by the Blythewood Historical Society. This event highlighted the extraordinary life of Dr. Portia Lubchenco, I believe I said that right, and the impact she had on medicine here in Blythewood and I believe in Colorado, where she ultimately ended up. It was quite amazing stuff. Miss West was one of the MCs, and she read from a screenplay that needs a producer, if anyone's out there. And Mr. Wood read from a book on her life. It was a fantastic presentation that they had, and I encourage everyone to be able to pick up that book if they want to read about an extraordinary lady who had an impact in medicine in Blythewood. A couple of other quick things. Tomorrow evening is the Night of Hope here in Blythewood Doco Park. It's a free event hosted by Village Church and is a family-friendly revival. My children and I will be here, and I'm inviting anyone else who wants to come out and attend. And finally, this Saturday, starting at 9, Councilman Pugh, Councilman Sloan Griffin, and myself, along with some other volunteers, will be picking up litter in and around Doco Park. This clean sweep event is open to the public, so if anyone wants to come out and fellowship and beautify the community, we welcome you. And with that, I yield the remainder of any time I may have left, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Eddie Ballman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too just want to say good wishes to our Councilman Larry Griffin. Glad to see you around, Griff, and glad you're doing well. Glad to see the power of prayer getting you up and everything, and just know that you continue to be in our prayers. And as I ride by, I always check on Big Mama just to make sure everything's good. Just a couple of announcements. I too just want to reiterate that my fellow councilman said the Rib Fest was awesome, but it brought out a great crowd. But I do want to give kudos to Steve Hasterock's staff for 16 hours worth of work here in this park, and they kept it. Next day, you couldn't hardly tell anything had gone on. They did an amazing job of picking up behind 61 cookers and 4,000 so people that came out. So Steve, give your staff a big hand of applause from all of us, and just know that we appreciate what y'all do to keep the park beautiful. I want to announce a couple of events, and maybe, one of them is next week. The VFW has a monthly Vietnam Veterans Luncheon. It will be on the 29th. It's from 11 to 2. It's open to any Vietnam veteran, no charge. Come up and enjoy a lunch on us, and we'd be glad to serve our veterans. And then a few months from now, September the 25th, the Vet Center at 1710 Richland Street in Columbia is having a stride and step for veteran suicide from 8 to 3 p.m. And as many of you know, our veterans are killing themselves at a rate of over 22 a day, which is an atrocious stat that we need to do something about to support our veterans. So I'm thankful that we do have the Big Red Barn retreat here in Blythewood, and what they do for our veterans with PTSD and trying to head off these terrible acts of people thinking they're hopeless. So we just want to let our veterans know that they're not hopeless, that we're here for them, and we thank them for their service. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Wonderful events. My remarks now, I will say, I commend Councilman Sloan Griffin and Don Brock for their volunteer efforts and coming out. Please come and join. I will come. I challenge the past 2 mayors to come out with us to assist them in their efforts to improve the community. And I've spoken to Councilmember Pugh. He's excited about it. He's looking to do much more for his district and our area, and we certainly will support him in his efforts. I will now take some time to recognize Deputy Hovis on my time so he can address us. He's graciously agreed to come up, let us know what's going on in our community, and give us kind of a brief update. So please, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deputy. I would just encourage you all, thank you all for attending online, to pay attention to the upcoming events now that we've started with a very successful Rib Fest, and then we move to the Operation Clean Sweep, Trash Pickup, led by our council members and Councilman Derek Pugh. We'll move into family movies in the park coming soon. We move into our annual July 4th fireworks celebration, as well as the August Purple Heart ceremony, and on and on and on. So stay tuned, stay on the website, go to the town Facebook site, and pay attention to what's going on. We need volunteers, and more importantly, we need you out there in the community bonding together to bring folks out who want to come out. So with that, gentlemen, I'll look for the approval of tonight's minutes from the Town Council 22nd of February meeting and the Town Council 2nd of March meeting.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the Town Council minutes from February 22nd, 2021, and the Town Council meeting of March 2nd, 2021. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Thank you very much. We'll move into paragraph 2 tonight, proclamations. I have the privilege tonight to proclaim in honor of Mrs. Maxine Kansader, and I'll ask that family to come forward, if you will. Councilman Larry Griffin asked us to honor Miss Maxine Palmer Kansader today, and once I read this, you'll fully understand why. Outstanding Blythewood citizen. And I'll stand. Come on up, and y'all turn around so the people at home can see you. And again, thank you for coming. It's an honor. Office of the Mayor, Brian S. Franklin, Maxine Palmer Kansader proclamation, March 22nd, 2021, Town of Blythewood. Whereas Maxine Palmer Kansader was born on March 24th, 1922, in a little house in Blythewood, South Carolina. And whereas Maxine is the fourth of 12 children born to Elliot and Lizzie Green Palmer. And whereas at the age of 18, Maxine married George Kansader in 1940. And whereas Maxine and George Kansader were married for 51 years and were blessed with 12 children. And whereas from her 12 children, Maxine's legacy boasts 41 grandchildren, 60 great-grandchildren, and 15 great-great-grandchildren. And whereas after many years of being a working mother, Maxine worked and retired from Midland Center in Columbia, South Carolina. And whereas Aunt Mac, as she is affectionately known to her many family members and friends, is the only surviving sibling and is doted on by all of her children, grands, nieces, nephews, church, and community members. And whereas Maxine is active in her family's home church, Bethel Baptist in Blythewood, and the Blythewood Ladies Club at the Roberson Center. And whereas the town of Blythewood proudly recognizes and celebrates the 99th birthday of Maxine Palmer Kansader. Now therefore I, Brian S. Franklin, Mayor of the town of Blythewood, and the town council members on behalf of our community, salute Maxine Palmer Kansader and hereby proclaim the 24th day of March in the year of our Lord, 2021, be known throughout the town of Blythewood as Maxine Palmer Kansader Day. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the official seal of the town of Blythewood on this day, the 22nd of March, the year of our Lord, 2021. Round of applause. Many more years. God bless you. Before I read the next proclamation, which is the Donate Life Month for April, I want Miss Victoria Coleman to speak on her organization's behalf. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for letting me stand for a few minutes at the beginning of the meeting and for doing this proclamation. We have over 50 towns and cities across the state of South Carolina joining us on this effort for April to recognize National Donate Life Month, the need and the impact that the gift of donation makes across our communities. And I'm a part of the organization We Are Sharing Hope South Carolina. We work in partnership with Donate Life South Carolina to make this gift of life possible. So we are the ones that are in the hospital, working with families throughout the recovery process and helping make sure that gift gets from our heroes to those waiting on a second chance. So I just want to say thank you to the town of Blythewood, to the council, to the members of your community for making this a priority. We actually, something exciting specific to Blythewood, we are kicking off our efforts for National Donate Life Month in Blythewood on April 2nd, since the South Carolina DMV headquarters is in your town. And over 95% of those who say yes to being an organ, eye, and tissue donor say yes at the DMVs in South Carolina. So we'll be celebrating with a small COVID-safe event at the DMV on April 2nd. And from there, we will travel through the state, lighting landmarks blue and green, and recognizing this important gift. So thank you so much for making this possible and for joining with the many towns and cities in proclamations. We really appreciate your support.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Coleman. And I'll read the proclamation tonight. Office of the Mayor, Brian S. Franklin, National Donate Life Month Proclamation, April of 2021, Town of Blythewood, South Carolina. Whereas one of the most meaningful gifts that a human being can bestow upon another is the gift of life through organ, eye, and tissue donation. And whereas more than 108,000 children and adults await life-saving transplants, of which more than 1,300 are in South Carolina. And whereas in 2020, for the first time ever, more than 200 South Carolinians said yes to organ donation, saving lives of approximately 500 people awaiting their second chance at life. And whereas we are still losing an average of 20 lives every day due to the lack of organs available for transplantation, because every 10 minutes another name is added to the national transplant waiting list. And whereas according to the national research conducted by Donate Life America, more than 90% of Americans support donations, and more than 54% of South Carolinians have registered at the DMV. And whereas a decision to become an organ donor can save up to 8 lives, and tissue donation can enhance many more men, women, and children who depend on the generosity and sacrifice of others to receive a second chance at life. And whereas every person should support this life-saving effort by learning more about organ, eye, and tissue donation, making their families aware of South Carolina's driver's license option. And whereas this April, everyone is encouraged to register as an organ and tissue donor to give hope to those who are waiting. Now, therefore, I, Brian S. Franklin, Mayor of the town of Blythewood, and the town council members, on behalf of our community, salute National Donate Life Month and declare April 2021 as National Donate Life Month in the town of Blythewood. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed in the official seal of the town of Blythewood on this day, the 22nd day of March in the year of our Lord, 2021. Thank you again, Mrs. Coleman.
Thank you so much.
We'll move to Part 3 in tonight's meeting, monthly meeting, to the public hearings. And we will move to Part A, the TA TROSS zoning. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a text amendment that was requested by Town Council as a way to zone properties within a subdivision that are designated as amenities to that subdivision, but don't allow residential uses like the surrounding subdivision properties. This would primarily be for new subdivisions, particularly when they are requesting a rezoning to residential. And at that time, council can require that the proposed amenity area be rezoned to this TROSS in conjunction with the residential rezoning. So this will give council and the planning commission a tool to ensure that open space remains open space, whereas in the past, it was an amenity area was just permitted outright within a residential zoning district. This would kind of restrict that, ensure that it stays that way unless they were to have to come back for a rezoning and come in front of town council for that. So this is just a tool for the town to have.
Okay, thank you.
And on, just to follow up, on March 1st, Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend this text amendment 5-0.
Do I have any public comment this evening about TROSS zoning? Traditional recreation open space. Council members' comments? Okay. I think the public at large understands the passion of this council to establish a TROSS zoning to prevent open spaces and green space, which are largely evaporating due to development and mass movement here to the northeast area of the county. We want to make sure we have that option to landholders and property owners to use TROSS zoning. This will be tonight the first reading of 2 that are required after the public hearing. So hearing no comments, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Correction, I'm sorry. He wants me to wait until we get to the action items. I apologize. All right, I'm sorry, gentlemen. My mistake. We will now close the public hearing on TROSS zoning, and now we will open a public hearing on MA Redgate. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a rezoning essentially by staff. But in conjunction with the property owner. It's property that is located on Blythewood Road and surrounded by Syrup Mill Road and Muller Road. It is currently zoned planned development, but it has never been developed under the planned development regulations. Therefore, this proposed rezoning is to establish 2 new zoning districts, Town Center with an approximate depth of 900 feet off of Blythewood Road, but also fronting Syrup Mill Road and Muller Roads, and to the north, a rural zoning. Planning Commission on March 1st recommended approval of this map amendment with a vote of 5-0.
Okay. With that, I see we have Mrs. Maggie Johnson signed up from Cobblestone Park to speak about Redgate. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'll wait till you're finished, and then. Yes, ma'am, thank you. I think those are, go ahead. Okay, thank you very much. Let me write that down. I'll make comments, and I'll allow council members to. I think that's an excellent idea for public use. However, there's no way to be sure if it's rezoned commercial, it will be between the owner of the property and the business members who come in to solicit and ask for establishment of a business. But I agree with you, public swimming facility would be an excellent idea. A lot of the kids who are in the high school and middle school swim teams have to travel far distances to compete. So that would be something that would also bring kids to town, since you brought that up. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You ask about the public parks. I have two good news stories for you. One is we recently elected new county council members who are focused on the town of Blythewood and how woefully behind we are in this area with our growth comparative to our recreation complexes. In executive session, this body met, and I don't want to tell you what we talked about because we're not supposed to do that. But one, I will say what is known to public, it was about property acquisition for this town. So I think you're going to see a lot of good improvements moving forward. I think we're blessed to be in a good time, and we'll explain that later when we have certain revenues coming into this community based on certain federal legislation, now makes that option possible. And now more than ever, we need to do that because, as you know, we're not making much more land, and that land is quickly being developed and/or turned into housing complexes, like the 600 houses going in across the high school. Something tells me those starter-level homes are going to have a lot of children, and those children need places to go recreate. And those, next to education, that's the most important thing we can do for our kids, is let them get out. Let folks get out in the fresh air, have green space, have picnic shelters, walk your dogs and pets, get out and mingle and see people. Right now, we don't have a lot of that offered based on our population. So I agree with you there. I think you'll see good news coming, absolutely. This council, at least they say they are, dedicated to that same, if you look back at all our campaigns, we all agree we need more green space, more walking areas, more recreation facilities for all ages, but mainly to get our kids out there and run that energy out. But then I'll close by saying, I think the wall that you spoke of, again, that's going to be up to developers. It's going to be up, it's nothing we can mandate. It's going to be if it is rezoned, it will be the property owner with a contracted buyer or purchaser of the property, and it will be up to them to do that. One side, go ahead, go, please. Okay. Right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. She said the YMCA does do grants, for those of you who couldn't hear. And I think those are honorable uses of that property. I hope we can reach out to the YMCA to expand here so they can come and purchase some of that property in the future. So with that, I hope these council members continue to answer your questions. So any comments from the council? No comments?
We'll open the floor for debate.
Well, okay, no comments right now for public hearing, to answer her questions, I meant. Okay, go ahead.
All right, sorry. Thank you. I value those inputs that you just spoke of, and that speaks dear to me, as the mayor stated, on campaign promises that we ran on. I ran on that concept of securing some of those assets that you just spoke about. So we will continue, I'm sure this body will continue in the future to work on some of those things to ensure that we get some great use out of the development of that area. So thank you, ma'am.
Other comments? Any other public comments before we close debate? Okay, hearing none, I'll close debate on the MA Redgate public hearing. We'll move to part 4 tonight, discussion items. We will will speak first of Richland County Public Library Story Walk Project in the Doco Meadows Park. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an exciting partnership with Richland County Public Library. Julie Emery, her staff, has been working hard to get this coordinated, and it is an active reading experience all along the Doco Meadows Park Nature Trail. There'll be 16 posts that each have a page or two of a book, and they will each encourage some kind of activity between each of the posts, which will be about 100 yards apart. The Doco Meadows Park Foundation is supportive of this collaboration, and the library is fully funding the project, including installation.
Comments, council members?
Going over the proposal with Ms. Emery and the public library, the fellow members of the Doco Meadows Park Foundation think it's a wonderful addition to our park for our children. I think it will enhance the park. It will allow them, the stories, as I understand it, will change about every quarter. So it'll change yearly. I think it's a great idea. I don't think it'll be any impairment to what goes on in the park, but I want you to know that the Park Foundation fully supports this.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
I'll just echo on Councilman Ballman's comments. I think it's a great idea. I know that we all received an email from Ms. Emery, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I could tell she was very excited about the prospect of this going into the park. There's no negatives involved in this at all. It gets people outside, it gets children outside, it's engaging. It's a great thing. I highly recommend and 100% support this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Griffin?
Yep, and I'm just going to echo on everyone else. I can't wait to see this project come through so that I can walk the park, and as we do every night, me and my wife read to my son, so I can't wait to get him through the park, walking and interact and read these storyboards. So I think it's a wonderful addition to the park, and I'm looking for many more of these additions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilman Larry Griffin, are you still there?
Yes, sir, I'm still here.
All right, I just want to make sure you can hear and everything. Go ahead, sir.
Nothing, just to what everybody else said. I think it's a great idea. It's actually a no-brainer. Richland, the library is setting up to do all the work and put everything out there and let us allow the privilege to be able to have it. I think it's a great idea. No problem.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving to Part B and discussion items, the request for proposals for Doco Meadows Park security gates. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a follow-up from our last meeting when the council recommended we move forward on some security upgrades, and this is just a follow-up to give you all information on the RFP, the request for proposals that Sarah Lynn has been working very hard on getting this onto the posted, that we will put up request for proposals to put up 2 security gates on Alvina Haygood Drive as you enter from Langford Road. So that would give us an opportunity to close the park at that time when we would set a time for that to close and just add some security. And this is just the first step. We will have more security measures coming, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that this will be out for bid and it'll be due by April 16th.
We discussed this last month and probably the month prior, but Councilman Griffin's done great, Sloan Griffin's done great work here. We collaborated. He talked about sweeping the park, which was a great observation. To avoid having to do that, I've spoken to Mr. Williamson. They do have pressure release gates that many communities have. So at a certain time, the gates would close, but if you were stuck inside the park with a vehicle, you could drive and it would open for exit only. That would prevent having to sweep and pay somebody extra money to come out or whatever. Just another idea, and that will be in the RFP to include that. So drive into the park, it opens during open hours, you're in. If you get caught after, say, 10 p.m., if that's what our ordinance is going to be, you'll be able to egress out of the park by rolling up to that gate, and it'll open automatically. So thank you for that, Mr. Williamson. Any comments, council members?
I just thank you, sir, for that great work you and staff have done to work on the security enhancements. And I know you did note, but I just want to reiterate and put it out there. This is the first step of many, and we have a great deal of conversation on what's to come. And I think that the citizens here in the town will like what's to come after we get a hold of the main security issues that we've been having. So thank you and staff, Sarah Lynn, and other members of staff for working on that.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll move to tonight's action items. And then citizen testimony regarding the action item. If I bring out an action item and you'd like to speak, please signify so we may actually address you and you can speak on behalf of that item. We'll move to Part A, the ordinance 2021.002. This is a second reading of the business license amendment. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just the second reading. Nothing has changed. It's first reading, but I would like to take the opportunity to recognize Ms. Cowan, who has worked hard on the business license, because this is a big effort to get our ordinance and in conjunction with the state. And we have lined up with the municipal association and worked closely with them and well ahead of many other towns. So it's not anything flashy that you're ever going to see, but it's a lot of hard work and it needs to be done correctly. And I just want to say how much I appreciate Ms. Cowan working on that.
Thank you, Mrs. Cowan. We do appreciate your efforts. Thank you, ma'am. Comments? Any citizen comment? So we'll be looking for a motion for the
Make a
second.
motion, we approve.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve ordinance 2021.002, business license amendment. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion passes. Thank you. We move to Part B, ordinance 2021.003. This is a first reading of the TROSS Chapter 155 zoning, Sections 155.305 through 155.307, Town of Blythewood Code of Ordinances to adopt a new zoning district titled TROSS Traditional Recreation Open Space District. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything to add to this.
It's pretty clear, cut and dry. We've spoken about it. Any comments, council members?
No comments from me.
Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll be looking for a motion for the first reading.
I make a motion to approve as is.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and is seconded to approve ordinance 2021.003, the first reading of the TA TROSS Chapter 155 zoning. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The first reading passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Move to action item C, ordinance 2021.004. This is the first reading, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map and zoning district classification for tax parcels R12600-02-01, in parentheses, 70.63 acres, close parentheses, R12700-01-21, parentheses, 70.3 acres, close parentheses, and R15100-10-01, parentheses, 2.41 acres, close parentheses, from PD Plan Development to TC Town Center and RU Rural. Mr. Williamson.
I don't have any additional comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Comment.
Please, Councilman Griffin.
On this, the TC, I mean, do we know exactly what they want as far as development out of this property? I haven't seen or talked to anyone as far as.
All I know is the Planning Commission voted 5-0 in favor. That's all.
Yeah. My only concern with the TC is I'm looking at the allowable usage right now, and the allowable usage still can have single-family attached residential. So there's still some form of residential that can come along with the TC. And I know, you know, from residents in the area and outside of the area, you know, kind of want to steer away from the residential concept. I'm just curious, you know, to what their plans are. I know usually you kind of see what someone plans to do with plots of land when they come in for rezoning. I just haven't seen that. So, I mean, honestly, I'm not comfortable with the residential piece to it because I know folks want to stay away from that. I would entertain, me personally, I would entertain something different, whether it's commercial or something to that extent, to have more detailed conversations on. But I feel like this is incomplete because I'm missing some of those valuable pieces of information.
Okay, thank you. Further comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Sir, Councilman Brock.
Thank you, sir. I can shed a little bit of light. I watched the Planning Commission's meeting, and the applicants stated very clearly that they do not have a plan. So I think that's kind of about as clear as it gets. I mean, it came right out of their mouth. They do not have a plan. However, I don't necessarily think you have to have a plan for a rezoning request. And even if you do have a plan, once your request is granted, you can toss that plan out the window and really do what's ever allowable within the use. Yeah, you can. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. I actually read the ordinance and looked at the allowable uses as well. I highlighted some pros and some cons, desirable and potentially undesirable uses. Within rural, you do have single-family residential. You also have conditional uses is manufactured homes, single-wides or multi-sectional, double-wides, triple-wides are allowed in the rural designation. They're looking for 80 acres of rural designation. Or another conditional use is wastewater transmission facilities and animal production. So I'm guessing you could, under the zoning regs, do some hog and cattle farms if you wanted. Some positive uses out of the rural designation is public utilities, police, fire, EMS services, public recreation facilities, which we have said that we definitely support that, and veterinary services. So rural is not the worst, but I think we could do a little bit better due to the fact that it does not eliminate the residential. In fact, it may make it a little more problematic. Town center, which is basically commercial zoning with architectural overlay, also has residential attached to it. The residential land intensity in the zoning, it says heavy. You can have single-family attached, which I believe would be townhomes and whatnot, and multifamily residential condos, apartments. Laundromats, tattoo parlors, tobacco shops. Not exactly sure if vaping is addressed in our ordinance. Liquor stores. That would give me pause to put those type of establishments over beside Cobblestone and also beside our elementary schools, or middle school rather, Muller Road. There are some positives to town center. Recreational facilities, restaurants, various retail, grocery, clothing, pharmacy, et cetera, bank and financial services, hospital, medical services, professional, legal, accounting, and other educational facilities. They can build schools and whatnot in town center. And there is the architectural overlay aspect of it. But I'm kind of along the lines with Councilman Griffin. Like, I want to kind of have an idea of what is going to come in the 142 acres. Or rather 140, I think everyone's very well aware of what's going to happen on the corner with Mr. Sharp's piece. But, you know, it's my opinion that once you change the zoning, then as long as it's an allowable use within that zoning, you can do it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, thank you. Further comments?
I'm very much in favor of the TC Town Center District over there. I think with the Planning Commission and our former administrator, as we shot down the zoning request in 2000, we asked the landowner and the administrator and Planning Commission to get together and come up with an ideal zoning district, and I think it fits the overlay of the town and the master plan, you know, pretty well. I mean, if we're talking about liquor stores and vape shops, we've got a liquor store and a vape shop almost side by side in the IGA shopping center. We've got a liquor store in the Food Line shopping center. So, I mean, vape stores are already here. I don't see where any of that's a real concern to me. I mean, you don't have to visit them. And, you know, people have their own choice. They're not allowed to sell to juveniles, so I don't have it. That doesn't give me a heartburn right there. So I'm very much in favor of the town center district. I think it's stringent enough. We zoned stuff here in the town TC before, so I'm very much in favor of zoning it TC.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Larry Griffin, any comments, sir?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, my first question would be, what are our plans? What was the council's plan or thought process in the rezoning? And if it falls in line with the comprehensive plan, then we move forward. If it doesn't, and we need other things answered, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point exactly what's going to be there through the zoning, because as Councilman Brock says, it can change. But my inkling here is if it comprehends and complies with the comprehensive plan, and we've kicked it around anyway once or twice, I do understand the concern about the housing, but if it fits within our comprehensive plan, I have no objections to it.
Okay, sir. Mr. McKenrick, would you like to come up and address that, or would you like me to? About does the rezoning comply with a comprehensive plan in the town?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Planning Commission did take this back up at the request of council, and one of the questions we asked during the Planning Commission, and we asked it of Carol, Mr. Williamson, if you have fully read the comprehensive plan, does this rezoning, which we met with the property owner, I believe you were on that conference call, staff met with the property owner and had a Zoom call with the mayor and discussed possible uses, what would the overall long-term plan of the property be? I totally agree with Councilman Brock, who watched the Planning Commission meeting. There was an absolute answer to that question, and that answer was they have no plan. They want to take the rezoning, go back and formulate a plan, and obviously that would go through the proper channels. So when Mr. Williamson was asked the question by myself and other members of the commission, how does this fit in the overall comprehensive plan, which currently we're rewriting? That part of the plan I don't think will change, but this rezoning and the overlay dovetails very nicely with the comprehensive plan currently. And then I had the question from a citizen, why did we go, 3 months ago, we presented you with D1 for the entire piece, and the council sent that back to Planning Commission because it had recently been purchased. Most people know the history there. And then how did we get to TC and rural? Well, the answer I gave the citizen was the most restrictive zoning we have at our disposal on Planning Commission is town center. Yes, it allows for residential, as been pointed out, but a plan that comes back that is designated for town center has a lot more hoops to jump through and approval processes to go through versus the rural part of that property that could be broken up and used at the discretion that rural lays out. So the TC portion, most restrictive zoning we can put on it, it's certainly a key piece of property to Blythewood's future, and it does, to answer Councilman Griffin's question, and I'll let Mr. Williamson speak to it as well, it does comply with the current comprehensive, not only comprehensive, but comprehensive and master plan.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, please, Councilman Griffin.
Before Mr. McKinney sit down, I noticed that it was a 5-0 vote, and that is in ruling with the new plan being, with the new comprehensive plan being adjusted. Will everything still fit in as what we're talking about now with the regulation? And did they make the 5-0 vote based on the fact that the new plan, that the comprehensive plan has to be adjusted?
Yes, sir. Yeah. The new comprehensive plan, as we're going to present it, will do nothing but strengthen the TC zoning up and down Blythewood Road on both sides of the interstate, both the cobblestone side and the current more commercial development side. And then the one thing Planning Commission was left with in our discussion is doing nothing here speaks very loudly because there's already a planned development laying on this property that has been there way too long. And certainly Mr. Brock is aware of that. We dealt with it when he was chairman of the Planning Commission, and Mr. Griffin both sat on the Planning Commission while we were dealing with that. And again, certainly respect the right of council to send that back to us because D1 wasn't appropriate in the opinion of council. So this is the result of that. But yes, the comprehensive plan rewrite would, in my opinion, now we're not done with it, has to be voted on and then come to you for approval, but would do nothing but strengthen town center on both sides of the interstate on Blythewood Road.
Thank you.
Yep, so great questions, Councilman Griffin. If you look at the master plan, which has been in effect since before I was on the Planning Commission as the chairman, we all supported it. I believe Mr. McKendrick just said Councilman Griffin and Councilman Brock were on the same Planning Commission after I left, and they supported it because there were no objections at the time. But now there are objections. Don't understand how that translates, but to answer your question, it has always been zoned and drawn out to be town center district. It's not a change, and all we're doing is look to support those who've come before us and work long hours to work on a comprehensive plan. And now here we are trying to debate if that's what we want to do. Don't understand that, but everybody has their opinion. Any other comments from the public?
I have some citizens'
Please.
comments.
Okay, no,
if
go
you
ahead.
don't mind, that want to be entered.
Please, yes,
into-
sir.
They would like it to be entered into public record. First is Mr. Tim Thompson. His address is number 7 Golden Spur Lane, Cobblestone. He is very much in support of this rezoning measure, especially the possibility of having commercial frontage on Syrup Mill and Blythewood Road with reduced residential. So Mr. Thompson is very much a vocal supporter of this. Mr. Brent Farrell and his family, 117 High Point Drive, also in Cobblestone, very much in support of this rezoning for the same reasons as Mr. Thompson. And I have another one in full support, which is a Mr. Mike Ross of 406 Link Crossing in Cobblestone also, very much in support of this rezoning measure. And I have another one, Mr. Mike Turner, which is in Cobblestone, but his address is in Primrose, and I'm not sure of his exact address. Now, he is more of on the fence of not wanting commercial on that property, and so I wanted to give his opinion. He's very much in favor of residential over there and not commercial, but he is kind of leaning, knowing that if commercial does come, commercial doesn't bring the 24-hour people coming and going, they come and go, and it doesn't take as much as a neighborhood does. But those are 4 residents that contacted me today, all in Cobblestone, pretty much all in favor of that rezoning measure. So I just wanted that entered into record. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'll add a few more
Councilman
comments.
Brock, go ahead.
Neither of these zoning regs eliminates residential. It's clear in the text that you can put manufactured homes on rural, and you can build multifamily in town center. Yes, it's restrictive, but it can be done. The Point is a great example of what can come in those 60 acres or the facility behind the Zaxby's and BP, a senior living. Those are allowable uses. Apartments can come in town center zoning district. You just have to comply with the architectural overlay. We are not getting rid of residential threats by rezoning these 3 parcels, town center and rural. It's important to note that, Councilman Griffin, Larry, pointed out that the Planning Commission recommended this 5-0. The Planning Commission recommended the D1 either 5060 or 70. Council felt otherwise. So a unanimous vote from the Planning Commission doesn't always hold the water that everyone thinks it does. I urge people to read, what section is it? 155, what is it?
Yeah, 305 through 307.
Yeah, 105, chapter 155 in the Blackstone, it talks about zoning. Look at the allowable uses. This is a first reading. It's okay if it passes tonight. But I highly encourage the people who live there that will be impacted by this to read the zoning regs to see what can pop up in your backyard. Some of it may not make you happy. Once this bell has been rung, it cannot be unrung. The applicants are not here tonight. That's a little disappointing. They came last time in front of us saying that we're taking away, which I adamantly disagree with them, 36 acres of commercial because it was planned in the PDD. We did not, in my opinion, take away any commercial acreage. Now they're asking for 60 acres, which is a 66% increase. Is this the direction the town wants to go? Do we want to create a separate town on the other side of the interstate? Also, keep in mind, there's going to be commercial on the other side of Blythewood Road in front of the industrial complex, the 1,300 acres that's there. There's already commercial there. It may be town center or other form of commercial. Really need to stop and look at what's available within our zoning designations. There are other areas of commercial that we can look at if we want to go with commercial. I understand the architectural overlay, but if the concern is residential, you are not getting away from that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And so based on your logic and your alarmist attitude, we should no longer have a town center district for fear of houses being put up. That's what you're saying here tonight?
That is not what I'm saying, sir.
Okay, so when Creech Road is extended, are you going to say the same thing you're saying right now, that we should not zone that town center district for fear of houses being put on it?
That is a natural extension of the current town.
But if you rezone it town center district, sir, go back to what you just said, that we should not do that because they could put houses on it. Am I misquoting you?
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
What did you say? Why are you voting against this town center district?
I haven't cast a vote at all.
Which has been on our comprehensive, or I'm sorry, why are you speaking against it in objection?
I
When
am
we have others.
I am simply stating that
Okay.
if the objections if the objections is residential, that's still a possibility. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. The applicants have clearly stated that they have no plans. You know, I believe it was written in the voice that it was stated that there will not be any homes on this property. That property gets sold, the new owners are not beholden to us.
Okay.
In fact, the current property owners are not beholden to us. Once you've rezoned it and it's an allowable use, you can do it.
So would that not be true for any other parcel who is asked to be rezoned town center district?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any other comments?
Comment.
Please, Councilman Sloan Griffin.
Usually when, and this just in my short experience, you know, you get people, they know exactly what they want to do with it. I don't want to play word play or go back and forth on things, but there is usually some form of ideal where they know exactly what they want to do. And, you know, we can throw the darts in the dark, but I'm not comfortable with this, and word play it how you want to word play it. I'm not comfortable with throwing a dart in the dark without knowing exactly what's going on. Councilman Baltman stated he talked to 4 people. I talk to people every day, and it's a 50-50. Nobody's totally against anything. But we want to see exactly what exactly this land will entail. Somebody has to paint that picture to articulate to not just us, but the citizens in this town, and the citizens that it would directly affect, exactly what's going on over there. So yes, decisions and votes. To go back on something you said earlier, yes, I was on the planning commission. And, you know, sometimes you don't get the interaction with the public as you do, when you step up to that next room and is elected, as a council member, you don't get those level of conversations sometimes. And now I'm privy to get that level of conversation and learn a little bit more about the people I represent, that stood in line for me on voting day. So I owe it to them to bring something back to the table, just as you owe it to the folks that voted for you. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent comment. Just, maybe I just see it more clearly because I've actually spoken to the property owner and not just sat in judgment thereof. And so when I ask them, why did you say you don't have a plan? They say, because we don't know what businesses are going to come forward to offer to buy a property. So when we rezoned the area right beside Zaxby's, did we know there was a Starbucks coming, or an Arby's, or a nail salon, or a vape store, as someone said? We don't know what's coming, so we can't hold that property owner accountable until a business comes forward and says, I want to buy your property and put an Arby's here. That's when it becomes clear. That's what Mr. Dinkins was saying when he said he doesn't have a plan. He wants to rezone it commercial and then see what kind of restaurant, see what kind of business, see what kind of commercial industry is going to come ask him to buy a parcel. So that's why there's ambiguity in that conversation. If we reach out and talk to the owner, then we'll see and we may get clarity. Maybe I'm just, and me and Mr. McHenrick sat there and talked to him before. Go ahead, sir, please, your comments.
Just one more comment, and I certainly don't want to be perceived as taking part in a debate, but I think it's important that you hear how your commission and why your commission is acting, and it is in your packet. If a property is rezoned PD and it is not acted on within 24 months, the Planning Commission shall recommend rezoning. Certainly doesn't mean anybody has to approve it, but as long as I'm chairman of the Planning Commission, I'm going to continue on that shall, because it can't stay PD. It has since sold. We have a new administrator. Mr. Cook went through this headlong, as did two councilmen who were previously on the Planning Commission. So and the property owner did not request this. The Planning Commission drove this because of the shall. The PD was not acted on. And I think the Planning Commission, in unison, knows that, and if you'll look in your packet, it's there. We do know that the current PD, which offers 232 single-family units and 300 multifamily apartments, is not what Blythewood wants there. So I understand even Mr. Griffin joining us by Zoom, asking what the property owner wants to do. I do think it's important that council understand, and I think everybody up there, if you rewind the conversation 3 months ago, this property owner is not requesting we do anything. He would prefer it stay the PD that it is right now.
Right.
The town of Blythewood's Planning Commission is the one pushing. That PD in our mind is no longer valid.
Right.
And the town's ordinance say, your Planning Commission, us, 7 members appointed by you, shall rezone it if it's not acted on. It's a golden opportunity to get out of 232 single-family homes and 300 multifamily apartments. And if it's not what is being presented tonight, if council could hint to what you want back to the Planning Commission, because there's a lot of work your staff puts in and a lot of work planning commissioners put in. Y'all know most of you served on the Planning Commission. For the main question, Mr. Griffin, to your point, what does the property owner want? You want a glimpse of what the property owner wants. I think if asked that question, he would say, leave it what it is. That's what they bought it under. We're the ones that said a week after they bought it, oh, by the way, we've been working at rezoning this for over a year. And then council said, yeah, locals just bought this. Give them time to meet with their engineer, which they did. So the property owner is not driving this. Planning Commission's driving it. And if you'll tell us some way out of that shall rezone, shall recommend rezoning, we'll be glad to move on that. So just the clarification that he's not driving the rezoning. Planning Commission is on council's behalf.
Right, certainly. And I would just add 2 points. Thank you, sir, Mr. Chairman, for that. The 2 points were, back in the early 2000s, there was a moratorium on those such ordinances by the state legislature to say, due to the housing bubble and crash, that they would not mandate the 2-year rezoning requirement, and they continue to grant extensions. That's why this town found itself, before any of our time, in the issue of saying, oh, well, we need to rezone this. Well, now is daylight time. They went away with the moratorium, the sun rose on it, now it's time to rezone. And oh, by the way, the property owners just bought it a month ago. How fair would it be to say, I know you bought it under this, but now we're gonna change it to this, sorry, and pull the rug? Secondly, when you said, right, you brought that up to the property owner, and he discussed that with us, and said, what does the town want it to be? And we referred automatically to the comprehensive plan and said the front part on Blythewood Road should be business or town center district, and they agreed to that. And here we are today, trying to make amends and come to a compromise. The landowner has a vested interest in that property, wants to put business on it. The town has said for, I don't know how many years, long before my time, that that's going to be town center, just like across the street that Mr. Brock talked about, is the 100 acres that border Blythewood Road is going to be town center, and that's where we're going to have the little shops and restaurants that all the citizens I talked to have wanted for a long time. So thank you, sir, for that clarification. Any further comments, council members?
One question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williamson, does this propose split zoning parcels?
They said that they would subdivide the property to match the zoning following this. They have not done they haven't changed the layout of the properties currently, just because they're waiting to see how this rezoning would go before they move forward on the re-subdivision of that property.
They would not be required to do that.
No, it is not a requirement. They can do, I mean, it is allowed to have that. It's not
Yeah.
desirable, but under the circumstances, it makes sense just because of the way that it's situated now, and wouldn't force them to do that at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a fan of split zoned parcels, so. Thank
Any
you,
further
sir.
comments? Okay, we'll be looking for a first reading motion.
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the first reading of ordinance 2021.004, an ordinance to amend the official tax zoning map of R12600-02-01 and R12700-0121. Any further conversation? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
Ms. Cowan, please call the roll for clarity.
Mayor Franklin,
Aye.
Councilman Ballman,
Yay.
Councilman Griffin,
Yay.
Councilman Donald Brock,
no.
Councilman Sloan Griffin.
No.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes first reading. We'll move to Part D, ordinance 2021.005, the mask ordinance. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a current mask ordinance in effect right now, and it will expire on April 17th. This emergency ordinance in front of you extends that 40 more days, setting the end date at May 28th. Town Council has a scheduled meeting on the 24th when they'll have an opportunity to review this ordinance before the May 28th expiration date. So that is the intent of this ordinance.
Thank you, sir. Council member, comments? Pretty straightforward.
Make a motion to approve as is.
Second.
It's been probably motioned and seconded to approve the extension of the mask ordinance to 28 May of 2021. Any further conversation, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you. Part E, discussion and approval of a bid to repair the front steps and porch of the Hoffman House Town Hall building. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the town put out an RFP to have some repairs made based on the budget from this current year to improve the steps on the front of the Hoffman House because they're uneven, difficult to walk on, and then out of code. And there's also some some decay in some of the wood on the porch, and the columns have some issues as well. And so we put the RFP out. Only received one bid, but the bid was someone who had strong references and came back with a bid of $12,500 to do all that work. And Town Council had approved a budget of $30,000 for this work, so it falls within the budget.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Williamson? Comments in general? Can I get a motion to approve or disapprove?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been probably a motion to approve the repair of the front steps of the Hoffman House. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you. We'll move to Part F, the Comprehensive Plan Survey. Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is partly to give Town Council an update on where we are with, the Planning Commission has worked hard on a survey, and Sarah Lynn has also worked very hard to get this together. So I just want to give you an update on, first off, what we have done so far as planning. So we want to put out, I think before you has come the 31 question survey that the Planning Commission worked on, and that is included in your packet. And then we have a plan to contact citizens through community organizations, their neighborhood associations and churches. We've created an electronic survey via SurveyMonkey. We have a QR code that is on buttons maybe in front of you, and we can place that at local businesses. Articles in the town's weekly newsletter, paper copies delivered to residents within the area code 29016 with a self-addressed stamped envelope, articles in local newspapers, speaking at the Greater Blythewood Chamber of Commerce monthly meeting to engage the local business community. I say all that just to say that we are working very hard to make an intense effort to get maximum feedback, because we can create all the surveys we want. If we don't get the feedback, then it makes it much more difficult to develop a comprehensive plan that effectively represents the citizens of the town. So I just wanted to bring that before you too, to let you know where we are, but also just particularly the printing and the mailing is a significant cost. So just wanted to bring that before you and show you that we're continuing to work on it, but so it come down at this point to two options. One option would be to put the questionnaire with the return self-addressed stamped envelope in both the Voice and the Country Chronicle and have that distributed throughout 29016 area code. Of course, we do have all the printing associated with that. And then the second option would be to print, we think about 10,000 copies and have that mailed out, and then also have some inserts for a smaller circulation for within the two newspapers. So you can see the comparison of the costs there in front of you. The first one is $8,380.20, and the second is $13,644.99. So as we continue to work on this, we will certainly go with the much cheaper option, of course, but the staff just request that council give a no greater than amount to spend on this project of $10,000.
Comments, council members?
Mr. Williamson, I'm looking at the insert options for 1 and 2, and for the Chronicle, 4,000 inserts cost $180. On option 2, 4,000 I can't even speak. 4,000 inserts for the Voice cost $200, but 10,000 inserts cost $2,100. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's a much larger distribution.
Okay.
And so that's the quote I received.
Okay. Do you have any idea of how successful option one or option two would be? Like, is there any other municipalities that we've spoken to that said, yes, we did this and we found that this option worked better versus this other one? Direct mail versus passive attempts to collect information.
I have not known a town to put out a survey quite like this many questions, trying to get this much feedback. But I mean, that's certainly something I will continue to work on as we weigh this. But and I'll think, we'll just continue to work on that.
That's an excellent point. It's a novel idea that a town council would reach out to all its citizens in the surrounding area and get their feedback on how the town should be run.
Correct, yeah, not just the town, but the surrounding area.
So-
I think that is what drives the cost too, but I think it will have long-term benefits if done effectively.
So I applaud this council for taking up this option with the planning commission's lead. The planning commission wanted to do this even before the town council talked about it.
Correct.
And oh, by the way, we base this model on the U.S. Census on how they do it. Send out flyers, they have things you can scan, numbers you can call. And so thank you, Mr. Williamson, for your leadership in the town to get this together. But Mr. McHenry, would you like to comment, sir? I know this started in the planning commission.
It did, and was piggybacked on by the mayor's desire to do the strategic three-year plan, and we didn't want competing structures going on at the same time, so kind of piggyback both these together. As Mr. Williamson has said, and again, and I know we've said it 3 times here this evening at least, but I really want to commend town council and your staff. It's really amazing what staff can get done when given tasks and loosening up the reins a little bit, and how creative they've been. Sarah Lynn, it's been a pleasure dealing with you on this. So each of you have a button. That was kind of a brainchild of mine on the Planning Commission as we're going to try to do this, and the button actually says, "Have you?" ? These will go out to restaurants, businesses, and ask those employees. I would ask the council to wear them through the month of April if you're at a town event. Town hall staff, actually, obviously, it's a very leading question. When I came up with the idea, I walked in the door and showed my wife a proof of it, and she said, "Have I what?" And I said, "Perfect." It worked. Have you filled out the survey? And then Sarah Lynn did get the QR code put on there. It does work. It was mighty small, but print-wise, that's as large as I could get it on there. QR code works. It takes you right to the survey. And we have spoken to the local papers. Our goal would be through the month of April and into the month of May for every resident of Blythewood at least and deep into 29016. Everybody at least be touched 3 times with the question, have you had the opportunity to fill out the Blythewood survey? And that could be if you're having dinner at McNulty, if you're shopping at Blythewood Consignment, if you walk in the Chamber of Commerce, wherever people, if you're at church, in a church newsletter. And we've went through many of these steps. But Councilman Brock, to your question, I am definitely in favor, in the Planning Commission and through Mr. Williamson's leadership, of option 1, simply because we want to be the best stewards of the town's money. The voice, that is a little challenging. Not that they can't do the 10,051 inserts, but we're talking to printers to do the best job of printing this survey in a method that it can simply be folded and put in a mailbox. And we're going to get the result. So the question is, how do we do that and make it sealable so they don't get destroyed? Because obviously if you get a mailing in the mail, it's tabbed in some way. So we're working with a couple printers and tossing back and forth ideas. So we are looking at having probably 14 to 15,000 of these printed. 10,000 of those would go to The Voice to be mailed to every resident of 29016. And then followed up with the Country Chronicle articles, simply because the 2 publications are very different in how they hit the public. one ends up in your mailbox, the other is a pickup, or services addresses that are far outside 29016. So we're trying to hone that in. But I don't think, that, $13,645, that's a lot of money to get people to answer a survey. The Planning Commission, Commissioner Gorge is really active here. He's taking up the rewrite of the comprehensive plan. We're going to be at the farmer's market every Wednesday with nothing but a survey table. Hey, these people who come to the Blythewood Farmer's Market, please fill out your survey. We'll have copies of it available. Not everybody is going to snap this with a QR code, although I will say, if there's anything positive about COVID-19, all menus now are QR scanned, so most people know how to do it. And people who were afraid of it before aren't afraid of it now. So just scan it, get online, do it. I did it, took me 7 minutes. And I think Sarah Lynn and Mr. Williamson had some town staff take it, same, about 7 to 10 minutes. Lots of area on there to fill out questions if you want further explanation. Certainly the annexation question is asked. Miss Barbara Ball with The Voice, I've had a conversation with her, and she's willing to put a tally bar in the newspaper every week so people in Blythewood can see how many surveys have come back. So all this to say, if we're going to do this, we want to do it right, we want to do it well, and you simply can't do it for free. Although we're squeezing these people, printers, publishers, as much as we can. I certainly understand that I don't know that we planned this when we did the comprehensive plan rewrite. We knew it was coming, but I don't know that this was budgeted. So I certainly appreciate staff presenting it to you and your consideration of it tonight on behalf of the Planning Commission. Any questions for me? Yes, sir. Yeah, and I'll let Barbara speak to that because it would be more if we did that. If we get his question was, for those people who may be joining by TV, is it not easier to get the voter list and maybe target 29016 Blythewood residents? A couple comments. Council made it pretty clear that you wanted it in and out of Blythewood. Right. Now, I'm not sure. I mean, I know from a planning commissioner standpoint.
Annexation
that's what we're
question,
gonna
that's
see.
what I asked.
Go ahead,
I
please.
asked
You asked
for
the
the
same question?
annexation. No. I'm answering.
Okay, I'm
just-
sorry, go ahead.
No, because I asked planning commission to do a holistic view so we get an ideal about annexation for the zip code.
And we did have two parts of the comprehensive, we had a special called planning commission meeting. Two parts of the comprehensive plan were presented by the COG. Very interesting as Gregory broke that down for us, which really affirmed going to all of 29016. The matrix they use to calculate the comprehensive plan, the finance side of a town like Blythewood. When they put that up on the screen, and I believe Mr. Williamson was joining us on that special called meeting, you couldn't make rhyme or reason how that cut came across Blythewood and the cells they're using and the income by average household that they're using. You couldn't do the town of Blythewood, nor could you do all 29016. It was a very interesting, some very interesting statistics they put out, which affirmed that we need to go to all 29016. And we're calling it a stakeholder survey more than a Blythewood survey. And hopefully, a lot of that property in 29016 will be in the town of Blythewood moving forward rather than the city of Columbia. So I hope that answers a little bit of your question. And it was going to be more expensive if we took that swath that the COG showed us and we got all those addresses and then we tried to mail a letter and a survey and a return. It's going to be more expensive than letting The Voice do the heavy lifting because they're there every week anyway. And actually, Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, in doing that, we're going to expand her mailing of the paper for the week we do that. Is that correct? Because she doesn't serve, but obviously we want to hit all of 29016. So we're actually going to expand the paper a little bit in the week we put the survey out.
Right. Good question, Mr. Bailey, that was good. We did think that through. Not all citizens who live here are voters. They don't, military come here for 3-4 years, as you know. They're contributing citizens. Their kids play ball here, they shop here. We want to get their opinions also. So we did decide to go to all. And then your next comment was, are we going to annex the whole zip code? Well, you don't know unless you do a survey and you see who's interested, who's not interested. And then as Councilman Sloan Griffin always comments about, then you develop a map, color code it, and then you'll see the interests and the areas that are not interested, and then you go from there. So a wise man once told me to be bold as mayor. Do you remember that conversation? That's what we're doing, sir. All right. But thank you. That was a good comment. Okay, so, council members.
When is the anticipated mailing?
Right, so the Voice has said they needed 2 weeks lead time. So kind of basing it off of that and, you know, with the council's approval, we'll kind of start tomorrow and see how far we can get it. And as Mr. McHenrick said, you know, the month of April would be the focus. So that's the goal. So if we can get all our ducks in a row in order to meet the deadlines, then we'll get it as early as April as we can.
Okay. Once it's out there, we should all push this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that
And-
gives
and
us,
the-
that
yeah,
gives
and-
us a couple of weeks lead time to start talking about it, social media, amongst your.
Correct. And, you know, the Survey Monkey, the survey will be out there. I mean, it's available now. So it can certainly be promoted, but as far as the mail out that puts it in their hands, that's where I'll certainly keep you all informed of that. It's live. Correct. I mean, I think if someone clicked on the QR code, you could complete the survey, yes.
Well, since I have the world's oldest phone, could someone email me that link?
Yes.
That way I can look at it and we'll post it and start putting it out there as well. I'll be happy to make a motion for option 1, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, well, are we going to,
Are we done?
I just got one more.
go ahead. Oh,
question.
wait, go ahead.
For some of the younger generation or something to that extent, have y'all looked at, you know, buying Facebook ads to get some drop links and kind of push people into doing this survey?
Not yet.
Okay,
We will.
okay, appreciate it.
Well, and to Mr. Williamson's defense, I think he's waiting on a budget and what we approve, then he can, but he just
Right, yeah.
showed here not to exceed 10,000, but we could go, you know,
Yeah,
12,000 and add up social media.
I'm not familiar enough with the costs associated with that. If you know that, that would certainly help in terms of our budget. Just ballpark or something.
It's not, I'll work with you offline. It's kind of unique how you can target some areas, and it's pretty much maybe a couple cent to, you know, a few dollars on just how big you do it. So
Okay.
we can work with that. I'll work with them.
Just
to kind of
That's
show
fine.
them that
Absolutely.
offline.
Just for clarity, we did award a marketing and advertising bid to a professional firm that this is exactly what they do. So it should be in place by April to answer some of those questions.
Sure. But in the meantime. do
We got to
wanna-
prep, yeah.
Do we want to set, go ahead.
I can get with you during that other
Okay,
time.
well,
We're just
like,
gonna get back,
you-
circle back around.
Based on what you know, would you say 10,000 and the cost I've already identified is enough to cover that? I guess that's my question.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, we're good.
okay. Any other comments? So are we looking for 10,000, not to exceed, not to
Not
exceed?
to exceed.
Can we get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Recommend option 1 not to exceed $10,000.
second.
Second. It's been probably motioned and seconded to recommend option 1, select option 1, not to exceed $10,000. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Now we move to G, line G, 2022 State ATAX application, Blythewood Historical Society and Museum part-time employee. And then we will also move into H, probably talk about them at the same time. 2022 State ATAX application, Blythewood Historical Society and Museum renovations and maintenance. So the reason, Mr. Williamson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, before Mr. Hastrock explains the applications, the reason this is coming before you, these are part of the 2022 applications, is because of, well, a few things. Timing, this is a part-time employee, and renovations that include lawn maintenance. So for the Historical Society to plan their budget, it's important for them to understand whether these funds would be available or not at this time, because July 1st is when this would be in effect. And also, because we did get these approved by the state ATAX committee, and these are, they meet the requirements of the state ATAX committee, and the big list that I brought before y'all last meeting had these two plus a lot of events, and the events are what complicate the state ATAX, but these are clearly meet the requirements. So with that, I said, okay, let's take these two that meet the requirements and we'll deal with the events separately of a separate funding. So just to give you a little background of why these are coming before you now and not the entire list. That makes sense.
Sir, Mr. Hastrock.
Thank you. Our ATAX committee met last week and recommended approval of both these applications. The first one we're very familiar with. We've been funding the Historical Society part-time employee for as long as I've been here. It funds their employee and a little bit of infrastructure. They list expenses as phone, Wi-Fi, and alarm system, or alarm service. The second application is a new request. It is what it says it is. It's renovations and maintenance for the Historical Society grounds and building. Again, allowable SAT expense. They want to add wheelchair ramp, maintenance, fence repair, refinishing the wood floors, things like that. And also Doris Coleman and Margaret Kelly are here if you have any questions for them, and they can kind of expand on what I've said.
Councilmember comments.
This is exactly what ATAX SAT is designed for. Exactly, to the letter. Kudos, Mr. Williamson and your staff.
Any other comments, council members? For clarity, we'll take each motion separately, so I'll be looking for a motion for $22,000 for state ATAX application, Blythewood Historical Society for part-time employee.
Motion.
Second.
It's been probably motion and seconded to approve state ATAX application for Blythewood Historical Society, $22,000, part-time employee. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Grant is approved. Move to H, 2022 state ATAX application. We look for $10,000 for museum renovations and maintenance for the year.
Motion.
Second.
It's been probably motion and seconded to approve a grant of $10,000 state ATAX for Blythewood Historical Society Museum for renovations and maintenance. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The grant is approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. Would y'all like to say anything? I don't want to cut you off. Ms. Doris, yep.
When I met with you not too long ago, we talked about some of the plans that we have in terms of really getting our budget established so that we would not be so solely dependent upon the town, but we do appreciate it. It allows us to do some things that we really want to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you for your patience. Thanks for coming tonight. Okay, we move to part 6 tonight, open citizens' comments. We've heard from Mr. McKenrick, unless you want to speak again, sir. We've heard from Mrs. Johnson. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, we'll close open citizen comments, move into executive session, and tonight we'll be looking to discuss receipt of legal advice relating to claims and potential claims by and against the town and other matters covered by attorney-client privilege. We'll be looking at talking about discussions of negotiations, incident to proposed contractual arrangements concerning the town's marketing agreement, and we'll be looking at discussion of negotiations, incident to proposed contractual arrangements, and proposed sale or purchase of property. There'll be no decisions made, and we will immediately adjourn after the executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
It's been probably motion seconded to move to executive session. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move into executive session with a 5-minute break. That went long. Y'all said we're going to go long tonight. Oh, no, it's like little walking trails, and there'll be like a book for kids to follow from point to point, and read a little bit more of the story. Richland County, we'll send you some info on it, there's a link to it, it's pretty. Yeah, you walk with your kids, let them read, and then they go to the next, they get all excited to go to the next.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was all their initiative, I mean, they just came to us, and we're like, yeah, it looks good, and we got the foundation to approve.